One of the narratives that's been built up by the right wing during the Biden presidency, and in particular, they were building this up during the lead up to last week's Biden-Putin summit, was the Joe Biden dementia narrative. It's not a new narrative. Remember that back when the 2020 Democratic primary was going on, when it got down to just Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders, many right wingers and even some people on the left were saying, this is when Biden falls apart. This is when, in a one-on-one debate against Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden becomes completely unable to put together a single coherent sentence. And it just didn't happen, as we know. But they've continued to push this narrative during the Biden presidency. Sometimes it's saying, it's really Kamala Harris who's running the show. Biden can't do anything. He's just, he's an empty suit and someone else is controlling him. Sometimes it's saying Biden can't do anything without notes. Imagine, right, being prepared for meetings. That's what I call it. And every single one of these claims that now is when it'll really become clear Biden can't even, he doesn't even know what day it is. Every single time it fails to materialize. But they were pushing it again for the Biden-Putin summit. It didn't happen. But it also didn't happen. And it didn't matter that it didn't happen, because in the aftermath, they were still saying, whoa, did you see Biden? Really concerning behavior. And here is Ronny Jackson. This was Donald Trump's White House doctor for a while, now a congressman. Ronny Jackson went on Fox News and said, from what I'm seeing, Joe Biden really needs a cognitive test, that Montreal cognitive assessment that Trump took. And then Ronny says, remember, Trump got a perfect score on that test, and then walks that back and says, well, he did really well.
We submitted to that. President Trump, as you mentioned, he had a perfect score on his cognitive test, an outstanding performance. And I'm just saying now, I'm saying that is the new standard. The precedent has been set, and I'm asking Joe Biden and his medical team to get out there and to get this physical exam done, get this cognitive testing done, and get the results back to the American people. We need to know that we can trust our president.
Now, there is just so much here to talk about. First of all, notice that Ronny Jackson first says Trump got a perfect score. Then he walked it back and said, well, it was an outstanding performance. What he's referring to is when Donald Trump took that Montreal cognitive assessment, which is really meant to screen out serious dementia. It's like, what city are you in? Can you identify whether a drawing is a lizard or a tiger? Trump didn't get a perfect score, but even if Trump did get a perfect score, it wouldn't tell us that much. You're really supposed to get a near perfect score unless you're seriously cognitively struggling. You give that test to people you suspect have pretty serious dementia, or they've suffered a stroke and you want to evaluate how they're doing cognitively at a high level, or maybe there's been a brain injury, etc. The idea that Trump's near perfect score on that test is now a baseline for evaluating Joe Biden, it's all a backwards series of events. Saying Trump's score was great on that, so Biden should take it, is like saying, I got a really good score on a drug test. Well, it's like, no, you just weren't using drugs. There was the absence of a drug problem. The test is meant to screen out the presence or absence of serious cognitive issues. If the new standard is knowing that a camel isn't a shark and that, we're in Washington, D.C., then we're in real trouble. And then for a doctor to go on TV and say this bare bones test to rule out severe dementia is now the standard for the presidency, that's scary as well. Now, let's get back to the Biden dementia stuff. I have been saying without any hesitation or equivocation since day one of Joe Biden's 2020 candidacy, Joe Biden is not the same Joe Biden as in 2012 when he debated and ran circles around Paul Ryan. Joe Biden's speech has slowed down over the last decade. Joe Biden is almost 80 years old. I've conceded that as if it's even really a concession. I've also talked about how Joe Biden's lifelong stutter, combined with him being nearly 80 and just talking more slowly now, could make it seem as though maybe he's not 100% clear in his mind all the time. I have no interest in gaslighting. It can appear that way when you combine the slowed down speech with the stutter. But when you see Biden given the opportunity to lay out his thoughts in a normal setting, you realize that the guy's memory easily recalls even small details about conversations that took place last week and about conversations that took place last decade. He has a full understanding of the context of every issue he's asked about. And I have no question right now about his ability to do the job, particularly compared to Donald Trump, orders of magnitude better. Now, is this the same guy that was Joe Biden debating Paul Ryan in 2012? Of course not. And along the same lines, if you look at an interview that now I'm having the issue at an interview that Trump did with Dave Letterman 12 years ago, Trump's facility with words, his vocabulary, his entire way of speaking has also shifted dramatically. And one of the things you notice with Trump, which can be a concerning sign, is his vocabulary is so limited compared to how he spoke a decade or two ago in those interviews with Dave Letterman and others. Now, if I thought Joe Biden was having a real cognitive issue, I would just tell you, period. I have no more interest in having a president with a cognitive issue than I guess any Republican does, although they seemed not as worried about it when Trump couldn't identify that Rudy Giuliani was across the table from him, or couldn't identify that his limo was right in front of him when he got off Air Force One and walked down and had to be brought back by Secret Service, or when he said he wanted to get to the oranges of an investigation. The same people now concerned about Biden weren't concerned then. I've called it like I've seen it all along. But to hear this from Ronny Jackson, the guy doesn't even have experience selecting and conducting these types of tests. He's the guy who told us Trump is 6'3" and weighs 239, if you can believe that. And even people with mild dementia can actually pass the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. So that's the latest from Ronny. They're continuing to push this same thing. And I'm curious to hear from you what you make of it. Are they pushing this because they have nothing else? Are they pushing it to sort of try to get back at the concerns about the same with Donald Trump? I don't know. Let me know what you think. We'll have more on this on the show's Instagram, which you can find at David Pakman Show. One of our sponsors is privacy.com. They're giving you $5 when you sign up for their completely free service at privacy.com/Pakman. I've been using Privacy for a little over a year now. You've heard me talk about it before. It's a lifesaver, and here's how it works. It takes just a couple of minutes to set up. Anytime you buy something online or on the phone, instead of actually using your real credit card number, the Privacy app and the browser plugin let you give each company a randomized virtual credit card number that you create out of thin air. It'll even autofill the card number with one click. And the payment is taken out of your checking account without the merchant ever knowing your real information. So this allows you to keep your banking information secure, but also to take control of your finances. You can create up to 12 of these virtual credit cards a month. You can set spending limits. You can freeze them. You can delete them anytime you want. So when you do this, it means you're not going to be charged when you don't want to be, because you can destroy the virtual card number right after using it, which, for instance, I love using free trials because I know I won't be charged when the trial is over if I use a virtual credit card number. You're keeping your identity private by not telling companies who you are. You're keeping your bank or credit card info protected against data breaches and identity theft, and it's free. And like I said, you'll get $5 to spend when you sign up at privacy.com/Pakman.